All right, let's talk about something literally every parent, educator, or anyone fascinated by human development thinks about. We're breaking down a really incredible piece of research straight out of Harvard University today. It's basically a blueprint, the Harvard blueprint for raising successful kids. And spoiler alert, it's going to completely flip some of those traditional parenting assumptions right on their head. We'll be mapping out exactly what Harvard found, trait by trait, in this explainer. So let's get right into it.
So, what truly makes a child successful? For generations, society has basically hammered one specific answer into our heads: good grades, right? Think about the immense pressure parents feel these days. I mean, from the second a kid enters preschool, there's this relentless push for academic perfection. The tutoring, the late night studying, the endless anxiety over report cards. We've been conditioned to believe that perfect test scores are this bulletproof guarantee of a wealthy, happy future. But what if that intense focus is actually completely misguided? What if the real foundation for success has, well, very little to do with a report card and absolutely everything to do with specific character traits developed during childhood? Well, researchers at Harvard actually set out to answer that exact question, and their findings are absolutely eye-opening. Okay, let's dive into this. 30%. The Harvard research reveals that kids who display 5 very specific characteristics from a young age actually grow up to have a 30% higher income than the average adult. Just think about the compounding effect of that over an entire lifetime. A 30% financial advantage is absolutely massive. But as you'll see, it's really not just about piling up wealth. It's about a holistic, sustainable kind of success. We're going to decode exactly what those 5 traits are so you can understand the mechanics behind that massive advantage and, more importantly, how to actually nurture them. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at Harvard's secret to success. Second, social skills and self-reliance. Third, determination and adaptability. Fourth, the power of flexible thinking. And finally, life weapons beyond grades.
All right, Section 1, Harvard's secret to success. Before we get into the actual traits, we really need to understand the concrete data behind all this, just to show we aren't talking about parenting guesswork here. This wasn't some tiny, casual survey. Harvard looked at a solid sample size of 1,000 adults, and they specifically targeted people in the 25 to 45 age range, those prime years for establishing careers and building families. But the methodology is the real kicker here. They didn't just ask the adults how they felt about themselves, they actually conducted in-depth interviews with both the participants and their parents. This dual interview method is absolutely crucial to eliminate bias. Because, let's be real, we all kind of view our own childhoods through rose-colored glasses, or maybe we're overly critical. By interviewing the parents too, researchers could cross-reference memories and get a highly objective, accurate picture of how these individuals actually behaved as young kids, and then directly connect those behaviors to where they ended up as adults. It's incredibly solid research. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that a staggering 85% of the individuals who possess the 5 traits we're about to look at actually graduated from a university. But the study noted something even more profound than just finishing school. The vast majority of this group went on to build really stable, genuinely happy families. So we aren't just talking about creating wealthy workaholics who are miserable at home. We're talking about well-rounded, thriving human beings who know how to navigate the boardroom and their living rooms with equal success. Moving on to Section 2, Social Skills and Self-Reliance. This part shifts our focus totally away from solitary studying right over to human interaction. Trait number 1 is good social skills, because the research confirms a simple truth: no one exists without society. Highly successful people are rarely isolated lone wolves. These are the kids who learn super early on how to utilize support networks, communicate openly with their peers, and connect comfortably with authority figures like teachers and parents. Let's picture what this actually looks like. Imagine a socially skilled kid at a playground. They don't just sit on the sidelines waiting to be invited. No way. They confidently walk up to a new group, introduce themselves, and suggest a game. They negotiate the rules, they handle minor disagreements without a total meltdown, and they quickly become part of the team. Now, fast forward 20 years. That exact same muscle memory translates flawlessly into networking at a major corporate conference. They walk up to strangers, establish rapport, and build professional relationships effortlessly. It becomes a massive professional advantage. And that brings us right to independence. Look at a dependent child, one who constantly relies on adults to tie their shoes, pack their bags, or instantly solve every minor dispute for them. They will inevitably struggle the second they face real, unavoidable life challenges. They just haven't built up those resilience muscles. But contrast that with an independent child. This is a kid who is explicitly allowed to learn self-care, who gets the space to make their own decisions, and crucially, they're allowed to make their own mistakes and then fix them. By doing that, they don't just learn a practical task, they build really profound mental toughness.
They develop this deep internal resilience that lets them adjust perfectly when thrown into brand new situations because they know they've got the internal toolkit to figure things out on their own.
Section 3, determination and adaptability. So this is what I like to call the action engine phase of the Harvard framework, where intention actually turns into reality. Trait number 3 is diligence, because let's face it, no success comes without putting in the actual effort. This whole evolution begins in childhood, with building basic discipline. Things like keeping a regular bedtime or practicing an instrument, and that leads directly into a commitment to seeing a task through to the very end. It means finishing that super difficult school project or completing a chore even when it completely stops being fun. When kids build this kind of stamina, they achieve great results in both academics and real life. As they grow up, this naturalizes into taking on high responsibility. They become the person everybody else relies on. And what happens when a highly responsible, dedicated adult enters the workforce? Fast career advancement. They are the ones getting promoted quickly because managers know they don't have to micromanage them. They simply know how to finish what they start. Now, trait 4 is one of my absolute favorites, adaptability. We all know that feeling of paralyzing fear on the first day of school, right? The unfamiliar hallways, the sea of unknown faces. Maybe you were the kid crying at the drop-off line, desperately clinging to your parent's leg. It's a completely natural fear of the unknown. But kids who learn adaptability, they instantly adjust. They walk into that terrifying new classroom, spot a toy they like or a friendly face, and just jump right into new activities without hesitation. By doing this, they are essentially killing the fear of change. They don't see new environments as threats. They see them as vast, open fields of opportunity. And in our ridiculously fast-paced modern world where industries literally change overnight and entire job categories get disrupted by technology, this adaptability isn't just a nice trait to have. It is a massive, absolutely indispensable superpower. Moving on to Section 4, the power of flexible thinking. This one is the creative spark that ties all the other traits together. See, flexible thinking isn't just about raw IQ or being book smart. It's defined as an open-minded approach that absolutely refuses to stick to old, rigid frameworks. Let's look at a real-world example. Imagine two people building a piece of furniture, and they suddenly realize they're missing a specific tool required by the instruction manual. Well, a rigid thinker freezes. They panic, they get super frustrated, and the entire project comes to a grinding halt because they can't follow the exact steps laid out for them. But a flexible thinker, they barely miss a beat. They instantly look around, grab some random household object that can serve the exact same purpose, and just finish the job. When problems pop up, these kids don't just stare blankly at the wall. They offer up entirely new perspectives. Because they have this open mindset, they demonstrate vastly superior creativity and problem-solving skills, which lets them navigate and conquer complex situations way better than their peers. And finally, Section 5, life weapons beyond grades. I really want to pause on this exact phrase translated from the source material, life weapons. The study strongly emphasizes that these 5 traits are the ultimate life weapons. Cultivating these characteristics is infinitely more valuable than obsessing over a standard academic test score. Now, why is that? Just think about the modern workforce. Sure, a perfect GPA might get your resume looked at, and it might even get you in the room for an interview, but modern employers are doing behavioral interviews now. They aren't just checking your grades, they are explicitly looking for these exact life weapons. They want to know how you handle conflict, how you adapt to sudden project changes, and whether you can think on your feet when a crisis hits. Those life weapons are what actually allow you to thrive, build wealth, and find profound happiness in the real world. So for all the parents watching, how do you actually raise a standout child based on all this data? First off, shift your focus away from just grades. Stop making the report card the ultimate metric of their worth. Second, deliberately cultivate these 5 traits from an early age. Look, they aren't innate magical talents reserved for a lucky few. They are habits. Habits that you can teach and model every single day. Focus on building their mental strength by letting them tackle small failures. Prioritize showing them how to form healthy relationships and resolve conflicts peacefully. And definitely foster a readiness for change by exposing them to new experiences regularly. The research is crystal clear on this. Even a totally ordinary child has the potential to become extraordinarily successful and stand out from the crowd if they're guided properly with this exact framework. It's all about building a foundation of mental resilience, great relationships, and a mindset that's eager for change. I want to leave you with one final thought. Today, are you building a child's grades, or are you building their mental strength? True growth isn't just about accumulating facts and knowledge. It's about the emotional and psychological tools a child has at their disposal. By focusing on these 5 Harvard-backed traits, you're laying down the ultimate foundation for a life that isn't just wealthy, but deeply happy and fulfilled. Think about how you can start applying this blueprint today. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.